Well, welcome to today's quick win. Today we have Johnny Rutten, a dear friend of mine. He's 53 years around the sun, so he has a lot of experience under his belt. He's a successful interior designer with his business called DuJourLiving. Along with this, John has lived a life full of experiences that some have said would normally take 3 lifetimes. Yes, folks, we have an amazing person joining us today to share about their experience being a number 1 in the Enneagram. Are you ready to work less, stress less, and make more money? I bet you're tired of working really hard, putting in crazy hours, and still not getting the results you know you deserve. How about we swap constant overwhelm for ease and grace and take your business to the next level? Imagine having absolute certainty with every decision you make. There's a way you can achieve it all without losing yourself. I'm Deb Field, quick win coach, business boss and keep it simple CEO. I've been successfully taking small, medium and large businesses to the next level for decades. Want to learn how? Go grab your favourite cuppa. I'm about to share powerful quick wins you can apply today. Let's create business magic with your heart at the centre of everything you do. One of the most interesting aspects of John's journey through life has been his journey through personal identity and how he fits in the world. And I'm sure he will touch on aspects of this today. And this is where John himself declares just how helpful the Enneagram personality modality has helped him on his journey and possibly even saved his life. So welcome to the show, John.
Hi, Deb. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you.
So am I. We've been talking about doing this for a while.
I know. It's so cool. Would you share with us what it was like to be a number 1 in the Enneagram when you didn't know all about it and how it impacted you? And then what's it like now? And then share with us the journey that you took to evolving to this really happy place.
It's, I suppose, to sum up what it was like before, debilitating, exhausting, catastrophic, and it borderlines, and I don't mind sharing this with you or your listeners, but I'd even say to the point of being suicidal.
Wow.
The hard part, I guess, in being a 1 without knowing you're a 1,
Right.
is the fact that the biggest trait that I had to deal with was the perfectionism.
Right.
I had to think right, do right, be right, get it right, and if I couldn't do any of that, I did nothing.
Right.
Right. So to live that lifestyle is exhausting. In my set of circumstances, I was the eldest of 4 boys and pretty much ran the household because my mother had 2 jobs. And one thing that I now understand with the Enneagram, there are often personality typings that run through a family. Ooh. And I suppose the viewers can't see my face, so I'll say tongue-in-cheek, I'm so blessed to have a mother who's a 1.
Right.
So you put 2 1s under the same roof, and that again can become a very difficult relationship to navigate, because one person's oneness has a particular way of seeing and perceiving something and how it needs to be and that it must be perfect, and the other one who has that oneness may see it completely different. So you can constantly be at loggerheads.
Wow.
From a schooling perspective, it was really, really difficult because, again, part of the characteristic traits of a 1 is needing to have that high moral ground, to present to the world in a correct fashion, to be right, and consequently part of that mission is to fix the entire world. So, yes, I had this belief system running that I needed to be everybody's saviour and show them how to do it right.
And underneath that, is that the righteousness piece that they talk about?
Absolutely.
Like there is a right way and I know what it is. I'm going to help you, and you're sort of that driving, compelling nature.
Wow. Absolutely. And the thing to remember in saying that, and of course I'm happy to admit all of that now, but part of the evolution of understanding the essence of who we are from a personality standpoint is being able to be honest with yourself.
Right.
Because until you can be honest with yourself, there's the evolution's not going to happen.
Right.
So, for example, which again is a part of that oneness, is there is a right way to do something. So the way that I would win friends and influence people is by being of service and trying to teach them at the same time how to do something correctly.
Right.
So on my journey in understanding the Enneagram modality, somebody actually said to me in one of the training sessions that I did, "Do you realise that you're manipulative?" Now, I can tell you now, Deb, for me to admit, first off, being an unevolved one,
Yep.
admitting that I was manipulative, which is not considered a good or a right or a perfect thing,
Right.
was a very difficult to terms to come with. And I'd almost go as far as saying as it wouldn't surprise me if that was the trigger of getting me more into the modality of the Enneagram to understand me.
Yep.
So when that person pointed that out, I took a step back and thought, well, I'm prepared to take that on board and look at it.
Right.
Now, it wasn't that my manipulation was necessarily a bad thing or had ill intent. It was about being the best that I could and doing what I needed to do, and more in particular, in my case, being what I needed to be
Right.
to be perfect and acceptable to the world.
Yeah, wow. And I tell you what, though, it takes a special kind of character to not just react to that, because I think that you could have
Absolutely.
really reacted to that and gone, you know.
Absolutely.
But instead, which tells me a lot about you, and I know you so well, that you are always taking in feedback, stepping back and having a look at it. And that tells me how far you've come, John, because I've known you for a long time now, and that takes a certain amount of courage. And I think, if anyone's going to take anything from today's episode, it's about having a little bit of courage, because every number we go through, we all have to swallow something.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, I'm sure you're going to touch on it at some point, but there are positive attributes to being a one.
Of course. They're awesome.
There are great attributes, and that goes with any number.
Yeah.
But it's that ability to take responsibility for where you're at in life,
Right.
and being prepared to own something. If I was to say what was my biggest learning in understanding the essence of who I am and how this modality plays out in my life, is the power of observation.
Right.
That the tricky bit with that is observing what I would describe as more from a spiritual standpoint than a mind standpoint.
Yep.
Because when someone says, "Oh, John, by the way, you're manipulative," I've got two options. Well, three. Option one is I get engrossed in my mind. What does that mean about me? What
Yep.
do people think about me? What do I need to do to be different? Can you see how debilitating and exhausting that instantaneously is?
Yeah. Heavy. It's heavy, actually.
Very heavy. It weighs an absolute ton.
Right.
The option two is to take it from a spiritual standpoint,
Yeah.
which I've got this little saying that I love. Too much of the natural, you dry up. Too much of the spiritual, you blow up. It's the balance of both that you actually grow up.
Right.
So the power of observation for me is the biggest key for anybody, regardless of what numbers they fall into with the Enneagram. By having the ability to then observe,
Yep.
own what is true,
Yep.
and that puts you instantaneously in the position of power where you choose whether or not you operate out of it.
Right. Because it is whether or not it compels you and you take the action,
Yes,
isn't it?
absolutely. And this is something your listeners might find a little bit disheartening, but trust me, it's so worth it.
Yep.
As far as the owning it is concerned, once you understand what number or category you fall into with the Enneagram, you're going to be that for the rest of your life.
That's right.
Right? I am a one for the rest of this physical life. This time round, I am a one.
Da, da, da.
Yeah. So the power comes when I can own that.
Yep.
The minute I own it and go, okay, well, there are attributes and there are things that I need to watch.
Yep.
But I put myself instantaneously back in the driver's seat where I have the choice as to whether I allow this personality typing to control me or not. The mistake so many people make is they use the personality typing as an excuse for their behaviour,
Right.
rather than a tool
Yeah.
to grow one's person.
Yeah.
Because the world needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We it's the collective that just makes this planet and our relationships so incredibly gorgeous.
Yeah.
So whether you're a 1 or a 2 doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're still an integral part of creation. Own it, see the beauty in it,
Yeah.
and then you bring the power to be of service to not only yourself, but in service to your community and your relationships.
So true. So true. So one of the theories that I've been playing with for probably a decade now is that you know how when we do individuation, you've got the first 18 months and that's around your lovability, and then
Yes.
you've got from 18 to 5 years, that's around your viability. I've been playing with and having a lot of success with, coaching clients and things like that and teaching the Enneagram, that your lovability is your feminine wounding, and that will establish a particular number in you, and your viability wounding will establish another one. So number ones are, it's mostly a lovability number. If I'm not perfect, I won't be loved for who I am.
Yes.
Do you have a viability number? Like, in other words, when the viability of your life gets challenged, do you step into a different number at all?
When I am in a slightly stressful or very stressful place, I shoot off to being in my 4, right?
That's right, yeah.
When I'm extremely relaxed, I shoot off to being a 7.
Yep.
So consequently, with my interior design work, when I walk into a space that I know nothing about and I have to get creative, there's actually a good stress.
Yeah.
And my 4 stuff comes out with glitz and glamour and spotlights. Just jump straight in. When I'm really relaxed and la-di-da with the world, it's often, I find that often a lot when I'm in my own time or my own space. And even sometimes when I'm really tired, when I'm exhausted, like, yeah, it'll be right, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
As far as a personal, if I was in a position where someone is threatening me or disagreeing with me, or we come into a debate perspective, where being a 1 really serves me in that area is ones generally have an incredibly strong character.
Yep.
And whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. They shall not be moved. They shall not be moved.
Right.
So that, I think, from there have been many times, because of different journeys within my life, where I have gotten to a point of contemplating taking my own life, and thank goodness I never went down that path. Good decision. I'm still here. But that needing to be right and to be seen as right and having that strength is probably the very thing that stopped me, because what would people think?
Right.
Ones are paranoid about being judged by others.
Of course.
We can't be judged because we're perfect.
Yeah, right.
Whether we are or not's irrelevant. But we are deluded enough to think that we are living and presenting perfection on a continual basis. Right. Hence, very few people get to know the true essence of who we are unless we let them in.
Yeah.
But letting them in is again, comes from evolving oneself, because that's dangerous to a 1. Yeah. If I let you in, you could threaten the entire structure that I have built that represents the perfection that I portray.
Right.
And no one can look behind my door or under my bed and see the emotional trauma that has actually gone on, because it's so deeply buried and so deeply hidden, because it doesn't line up with the society's concept of perfection and how I need to present.
Right. So tell us about how it is now, living now, because you've done the work. You've been courageous and brave. You've done the work on yourself. You've observed self as things, because it's not like you find out today you're a 1 and suddenly you're fine.
If only.
Put a couple of years in there, maybe a decade, but there's a journey, and those that embrace that journey actually do the work and they get the outcomes. What's it like now living as an evolved one? I would definitely call you an evolved one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to start by saying the work is never done.
Right.
It's
Good
a journey.
advice,
This
yeah.
is a destination. It is not. It's not a destination. It's always a work in progress.
Right.
The wonderful thing is, by having the understanding how the personality typing works, again, as I said before, that puts me in a position of power. And it's often tested very well when rubber hits the road,
Right.
or a situation comes up. And then again, we're presented with the choice. Do we just go to what our default settings are, which will always be there?
And easy.
And very easy.
So easy.
Very easy.
Yep.
Or do we choose a different path? So how I operate now, I can say I tend to breathe a lot more before opening my mouth.
Right.
I tend to observe a situation before taking action, whereas before I would simply react to
Yep.
it. The level of freedom it's brought me, to give you a little bit of an analogy, it's a funny one. People laugh at me because I like my house spick and span and everything's in place.
Right.
I could never leave the house with dishes in the sink or the bed not made.
Right.
That would cause such a high level of anxiety. I wouldn't relax during the whole day until I got home and be able to straighten those things out.
Yep.
Now, this is a very minor, ridiculous part that I'm sharing with you, but it's a really clear analogy. So when I understand why I was doing what I was doing, I would practice and I would have conversations with myself. So, John, if you don't make the bed, are you going to die? Well, no, I'm not going to die. Okay. So if you don't make the bed, is it going to cause you to have a horrible day? Well, no, because it's just the bed not made. Well, why don't we try leaving the house without making the bed today?
Right. So you actually had to almost coach yourself.
Absolutely.
What a great way to do it.
And I'm a great believer in having those conversations. If anyone saw me at home, they think I was absolute nuts because I'd have them out loud. And now I can joke about it.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, my bed is made most of the time. But if I have to leave the house and there's dishes in the sink or the bed's not made, that's fine. They're not going anywhere. I'll do them when they come home.
Yeah.
So I now joke with my friends. I say, well, the reason I do it is because if I get burgled, the robber will judge me.
Right.
So the level of freedom that it's now brought to my life is incredible. And that is continually growing.
Right.
The thing that the clarity of understanding, on top of what you have said about the feminine wounding, it's evident to me that one's run through my family.
Right.
It's evident that one's run through my family back many, many generations. And then I'm also personally of the opinion that we can also inherit part of this through reincarnation and other lives that we've lived.
Yes.
So I could spend and waste a lot of my time looking as to where it's come from or what's caused it, or go, you know what? It is what it is. This is what I've got to work with. So how do I make the best life possible now?
Right.
And it's like going to the gym. When we start going to the gym, everything hurts, it's painful, and we take a long time to see results. But once we get the ball rolling and the weight drops off and the muscles build, we actually get to a point where we love going to the gym.
That's right.
So working the Enneagram is very much like that. You will work it till the day you depart from here. But it gets easier and easier, and the fruits of it, in my opinion, are much more freedom, much better relationships. You also begin to understand how other people operate, and that in itself is... So I said earlier, I can't stand ones, and that's a truthful statement. I find it hard to get on with them.
Right.
But I'm a one myself. Right. But now when I meet another one, I can reflect on my own life and go, well, hang on a minute, you're a one as well. And it enables me to walk with a lot more grace, a lot more understanding, and actually be a support and an influence on that person's life.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, and I've seen you do so many amazing things on this journey, and I just want to say you're incredibly courageous, because the tough thing for the one is to hang out with the dark side
Absolutely.
of themselves and to look inward and go, oh my goodness, it's me.
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing. Well done, you.
Well, you mentioned earlier that my background as far as the church circles were concerned.
Yep.
I don't mind your listeners knowing I'm a gay man. You can probably tell by the voice. I've tried to blank it up, but it doesn't always work. But being a gay man, having had a lot of questions within my life in regards to my gender and what that was and where I would possibly take that, you put the church circles on top of it and the religious beliefs I was raised in. People might think this is a bit crazy. I can look back on the trauma, one could call it, and actually be very grateful for it, because there's several times in my life where my entire belief system has been pulled out from under me. Yeah. And it's in those moments where I've been able to basically say to God, consciousness, the universe, whatever label one cares to use, well, I don't know what's going on and I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what decision to make next. I'm lost. Yeah. And that's when this information started coming toward me and empowered me to work through those things, because it was the unevolved one in me that said I couldn't be loved, I couldn't be accepted, I wasn't worthy because I'm not perfect, I'm broken. Therefore, the only way for me to be viable in the world is to slit my wrists and get out.
Wow.
Right? That's an unevolved one.
Right.
As an evolved one, I've actually now come to a point where I realise, like everybody else, I've got a gift to bring. And if that gift is brought with the understanding and knowing that the personality that I am, the way that that comes out into the world, that's what's going to make a difference to the world and to myself. So I can now look at that oneness as a gift, rather than something that has bound me with chains for many years until I came to these insights and understandings.
That is such a beautiful thing to share, because there are times, I'm certain, where possibly all numbers go through that moment of, this is too hard, I don't want to be here.
Absolutely.
And it's just great to know that we can come out from under that. So I think it's a good time now to talk about the wonderful things about being a one. What are the blessings? Like I can tell you from my experience, I love having ones in my team or in an area of a business that I'm working with. They love the detail. They clean up after me. They fix things and make them right. Do you know what I mean? I'm always saying, oh, where's the one? I need them to kind of have a look over something. So they're just amazing people. So share with me what it's like to be a one and all those beautiful gifts.
The gifts, gosh, the gifts are always there, but they obviously vary from person to person. So my personal gifts, I don't actually know how I do it, but I see space and I can work with space really well and solve problems that people have with space. I can make, I had one life coach way back when say to me that I can make, I won't use expletives on your show, but I can make number twos look like gold. Polish. So what I love about being a one is my ability. I now change the word that I pursue excellence.
Yeah.
Not perfection.
Right.
So
very big difference.
A very big difference. But an uninvolved one will pursue perfection.
Right.
An evolved one pursues excellence.
Oh, I like
and in
it.
pursuing excellence, what I find, because ones, again, we generally have that strong personality, they can often lead a group of people or lead a team to excellence and hold a standard. An evolved one will hold that standard and walk with grace. Yep. An unevolved one will hold that standard. If you don't bring it, bash the what out of you.
Right.
So I love the fact I'm actually before I came to you today, I'm working on a project that needs to be finished by the end of October, and we're really cutting it fine. But I've rallied everybody together today and said, okay, so what's the list of things we still need to get done? Okay, I'd like to make sure that's finished this way, that's finished that way. If you can do this job and you can do that job, we can pull this together and pull it off. So I love that aspect of my oneness.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really love is that strength of character. And I'd like to think that it's gone from what used to be observed, and I'm happy to admit it was probably more of a self-righteousness, and that's transformed into, I know who I am and I know what I'm a part of. And there are people that can speak into my life, but very few.
Yep.
And if you're not one of them, your opinion doesn't really matter.
So you don't get like barreled by it anymore. You're not impacted.
At all.
Yeah,
not at all.
That's awesome.
Whereas my mission was to live by what others thought and to try and fulfill society's standards.
Perfect.
So, little bit of a side note, but again, a great analogy. When I was contemplating having gender reassignment surgery,
Right.
I had to ask myself a whole lot of questions as to why. What was it going to achieve? Why was I doing it? Cutting a long story short, back then, the only way I saw myself viable in the world was to be a woman.
Right.
Because that's what society dictated I was, because of everything I liked, everything I enjoyed, and everything I wanted to be.
Right.
Where I am now, so that's the unevolved one,
Right.
trying to fulfill society's expectations and be viable.
Right.
Where I am now is society's expectations and conditions have no bearing on what I love and the way that I present in the world.
I love that.
I'm free to be me in all my oneness.
Yeah.
And the occasional fourness and sevenness. but I'm free to be me because I have found the value within myself. So I have become my source of supply rather than exhausting myself trying to fulfill everybody else's expectations and needs.
Wow. That's really insightful.
It's transformational.
Absolutely.
The journey is transformational.
Yeah. Wow, there's a whole podcast on that, you know that.
Yes. I knew this wouldn't be the only one we do, Deb.
There's a podcast
There's a
in that.
podcast in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We've touched on a little bit of a lot today.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to share with us in closing before I let people know how they can contact you?
The only thing that comes to mind really is listen, especially to your podcasts, but listen with a spiritual ear,
Right.
observe from a spiritual standpoint, and then take action.
Right.
Don't react.
Yeah.
Listen, observe, and then choose the action.
Beautiful. It is in our reaction where we come unstuck, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
And that's where we default back to our typical, the yucky stuff of a 1 or whatever number you are.
Yeah, it's so true.
So don't
John.
don't react. Take action.
Take a breath and take action.
Absolutely.
I love it. Just take a breath. That's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
And as a bit of a side note too, what I love about my interior design stuff is that creates a physical, beautiful resting space for someone. What we do from a spiritual standpoint creates an internal, beautiful space for someone.
Yeah.
Get your house in order, create a beautiful space, learn to observe, learn to listen, and the transformation begins. And you've always got that space to come back to. That's your sanctuary, both externally and internally. That's your home. That's where heaven lies.
Such a beautiful man. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and sharing this incredible journey you've had. Because I know it's not been easy. And it never is, actually, for one, as we know, because of that self-judgment and all that kind of stuff. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you, especially around this incredible work you do with space...
More than happy for people to contact me via email, and my email is DuJourLiving@ProtonMail, and DuJourLiving is DuJourLiving @protonmail.com. And DuJourLiving, you know when you go to a restaurant, Deb, and you have soup of the day?
Yes.
Well, this is interior design of the day.
I love it. So the good news is I'll put all of your contact details in my show notes.
Fantastic.
So the listeners can just click straight in there, find your details and give you a call or contact you. Thank you, John, so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Deb. I always love catching up.
I know. And so there you go, folks. We've had amazing interviews around being a number one, what it feels like to be a one, what it feels like not to be sort of in the grip of the one, and the journey it can take, or the journey that it will take to actually transform so that the pleasures of being your amazing self can come to fruition, and you can live out life with a lot less pain and anguish. Because I think when we're in our numbers and we're not aware of it, and we're living from that, as you say, John, that default pattern,
yes,
it brings us a lot of pain,
it
and
does.
we don't know why. So I encourage you to listen to the next 8 weeks. We've got all the other numbers coming, and I want you to listen to all of them, because when you hear them all, you can understand yourself, most importantly understand others, and that enables better relationships. So there you have it, friends. 2 number ones sharing the good, the bad and the ugly, sharing the real truth about how it feels to be a number one and how they navigate the challenges, the pain and the beauty of their personality type. I want to thank Kristen and John for sharing and revealing so much about themselves and their journey. So definitely check out the show notes where you can find their contact details and links to more detail about the Enneagram. And if you're interested, how you can put on a workshop for your business team to learn more about themselves and others. Make sure you listen to the episodes with all 9 numbers and learn about the weird and wacky ways of the Enneagram and our special kind of crazy for all our personality types. I hope you loved today's episode and it provides value to you and your business. There are 2 quick things you can do to pay it forward. 1, share this episode with other women you know and love. And 2, take 30 seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcast. This will enable more women in business to receive this valuable information. Let's share the love. Finally, go to quickwinsforbusiness.com, get your free business checklist and join our private Facebook community where I'll be sharing additional quick win tools. Let's work together. Join me here next week with another exciting episode sharing more quick wins for your business. Have a great day.